All right, get ready because today we are really going to deep dive into this idea of user experience.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to kind of revolutionize the way we all think about, well, pretty much everything. We're tackling Paul Boag's book, User Experience Revolution.
Right.
And
Yeah.
he makes this really interesting point that UX is not just some kind of design trend. It's more like a total business strategy overhaul.
Yeah, it really is. I
Uh,
mean, Boag, he does a fantastic job of really kind of shaking up the way a lot of organizations are still approaching like their whole digital presence.
yeah.
They're missing out on this massive opportunity
Yeah.
by treating their websites like they're just online brochures instead of
Yeah.
like real interactive experiences.
Yeah.
You know, user-driven
I
experiences.
feel like they're stuck in like the digital dark ages.
Totally.
And Boag uses Blockbuster as a great example.
Yeah.
Like remember those guys? They basically like totally dropped the ball on their online platform and completely missed that whole shift towards streaming and on-demand
Right.
content.
And that brings up a really important point, though.
Mhm.
It's not just about bad timing, you know? Like, Blockbuster's failure was about not understanding how, like, user expectations were changing in the digital landscape.
Right.
It's kind of like what happened to Kodak when digital photography took off. You know, they held onto their old model for way too long, and
They paid the price.
yeah, they paid the price.
Big time.
Yeah.
But okay, so those are some pretty dramatic examples.
Right.
But I bet you've seen the same kind of thinking like in your own life.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, like maybe at work with some clunky software system,
Mhm.
or even just using a frustrating app that just makes you want to chuck your phone across the room.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
We've all been there.
Totally.
And this brings us to like a really common obstacle that Boag tackles head on,
Yeah.
which is this whole perception that UX is like a luxury. Like you only invest in it if you've got like extra budget lying around.
The dreaded, we can't afford good UX argument.
Yeah, exactly. But Boag actually gives us some really smart strategies for overcoming that pushback.
Oh, he does.
He talks about the power of using data,
Right.
storytelling,
Oh,
and
yeah.
empathy to really show the value of UX even to the most skeptical stakeholders.
I think one of the best examples he uses is Airbnb.
Oh, yeah.
In their early days, they discovered that investing in like professional photography for their listings,
Yeah,
it really improved the user experience.
totally.
It wasn't just about making things look pretty.
Yeah.
It was about creating a sense of trust and aspiration for potential travelers.
It's amazing how something as simple as better photography can just make such a huge difference.
Totally.
And, the results speak for themselves. Like Airbnb saw a significant jump in bookings after they made that change.
Exactly. And it highlights that you really need to tailor your approach to the specific concerns of each stakeholder. For instance, Amazon's laser focus on their checkout process, making it as streamlined and frictionless as possible, that's a huge part of why they've been so successful.
Right.
They understood that like a smooth checkout experience equals happy customers and more sales.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Right.
Okay, so we've established that UX is way more than just making things look pretty.
Right?
But Boag goes even further and argues that good UX actually impacts like every area of a business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. A seamless onboarding process
Yeah.
can reduce churn.
Yeah.
Intuitive software can boost productivity.
Uh-huh.
And a user-friendly website, that can boost sales and improve your whole brand perception.
Right. It's about understanding that when you prioritize UX, you're investing in a smoother customer journey,
Right.
less friction, and ultimately a stronger bottom line.
Cool.
And Boag has this killer example to prove this point. The UK government digital service website redesign.
Ah, yeah, that's a fantastic case study.
It is.
By focusing on the user, they didn't just increase satisfaction.
I agree.
They also significantly reduced their support costs.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want happier customers and a more efficient operation?
It's a win-win.
Totally.
But now we need to figure out how to actually make this happen, like inside an organization,
Right.
which sometimes can feel like an uphill battle.
Oh, yeah.
Boag really emphasizes that it's not enough to just have a UX department.
Right.
You need to create a real culture of UX.
Totally.
And he's spot on about that.
Yeah.
It requires this like shift in mindset, breaking
Yeah.
down those silos between departments,
Right.
and strong leadership that really champions user-centered thinking.
Right.
So how do we get everyone on board with this new way of thinking?
Well, Boag highlights IBM and their whole concept of design thinking.
Yeah.
They basically embedded UX principles into like every single aspect of their operation. making
Wow.
it everyone's responsibility, not just the designers.
So they really went all in on this, hiring tons of designers, establishing this really clear framework,
Uh-huh.
and ultimately revitalizing their whole software and services.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then you've got Intuit
Yeah.
with their Design for Delight initiative,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's all about building a culture where understanding the user and creating delightful experiences is like front and center for every decision.
And they really empowered their employees at every level to approach their work from like a design perspective.
Exactly.
Wow.
Which led to some really innovative and impactful solutions.
So think about this for a second. How could your workplace benefit from a stronger UX culture?
Yeah.
Could a more user-centered approach streamline your processes,
Right.
improve customer satisfaction, or even spark new ideas and innovations?
Boag argues that one of the best ways to build momentum is to start small.
Yeah.
Identify those low-hanging fruit, the things where even small improvements can yield big results.
He gives some great examples,
Yeah.
like simplifying onboarding processes.
Speeding up load times, making forms more user-friendly.
Exactly.
Like, these are all things that can make a huge difference to the user experience
Right.
without requiring these massive overhauls.
Yeah, and it's a really smart strategy because those quick wins
Yeah.
help you build credibility and show the value of UX.
Right.
And that paves the way for bigger initiatives later on.
He uses Spotify as a great example.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't try to revamp their entire platform at once.
Right.
They focused on making incremental improvements,
Right.
constantly analyzing user data and tweaking their approach based on what they learned.
Yeah, it's like those tiny little course corrections that
Yeah.
a captain makes to keep the ship on course.
Yeah.
Those small adjustments can have a huge impact on where you end up.
Exactly.
And just like Spotify used those early wins to build momentum, you
Yeah.
can too.
Totally. So take a look at your own work or projects.
Yeah.
Where are there opportunities for those quick, impactful UX improvements?
You might be surprised by what you find.
Yeah.
Now, while those small wins are important,
Right.
Boag is also really clear about the crucial role of leadership in driving a true UX revolution.
Okay.
Leaders need to set the tone, create the right environment,
Right.
and provide the resources for user-centered thinking to thrive.
It's like setting the stage for a performance
Exactly.
without the right stage lighting and direction.
Yeah.
Even the most talented actors won't be able to shine.
Right.
And in the UX world,
Yeah.
those leaders are the ones who create the conditions for success.
And we have some amazing examples of leaders who have done just that.
Oh, yeah.
Like Jeff Bezos at Amazon.
Right.
His unwavering commitment to putting the customer first has just totally permeated that company culture.
Exactly. Or Tony Hsieh at Zappos.
Oh, yeah.
They're practically legendary for their customer-obsessed culture.
Yeah.
Their focus on UX wasn't just a marketing ploy.
Right.
It was a core value that drove their whole business strategy.
And that's what strong leadership can do. Sending that clear message that UX matters.
Right.
It's not a nice to have.
Yeah,
It's a strategic imperative.
absolutely.
Which brings us to another crucial element, empowering your teams to make UX a priority.
Yes.
Boag argues that you need to give teams the autonomy, the tools, and the training they need to really own UX and make it part of their everyday work.
Exactly.
It's about creating that collaborative environment where everyone feels comfortable advocating for the user.
And we've got some great examples of how companies are doing this.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Google's design sprints are a great one.
Yeah.
Bringing together teams for these short bursts of collaboration
Yeah.
to rapidly prototype and test ideas.
So smart.
It's a great way to get everyone involved in the design process
Yeah.
and build consensus around user-centered solutions.
And then Atlassian has their Shivit days,
Oh, yeah.
where teams dedicate an entire day to focusing on UX improvements
Like
and
that.
innovative solutions.
Exactly. These dedicated time blocks give teams the space
Yeah.
to experiment, try new things,
Yeah.
and really push the boundaries of what's possible.
It's like giving permission for controlled chaos.
Yeah.
Knowing that some of those experiments might lead to amazing breakthroughs.
Right.
So how could your organization do a better job of empowering teams to make user-centric decisions?
Yeah. Are there ways to break down silos,
Uh-huh.
encourage more collaboration,
Yeah.
or provide the resources and training they need to champion UX in their own work?
These are all great questions.
It's definitely something worth thinking about.
It is.
And this leads us to another crucial aspect.
Yeah.
How do we move beyond just gut feeling and make UX measurable.
Right.
How do we show its impact in a way that stakeholders understand and appreciate?
Right. We need to move beyond like those subjective opinions
Yeah.
and get some hard data.
Exactly.
And luckily for us, Boag dedicates a whole section of the book to the tools and frameworks that can help make UX measurable
Right.
and demonstrate its value.
He talks about personas,
Yeah.
journey maps,
Uh-huh.
and usability testing sessions.
Yeah.
These tools give you valuable insights into user needs,
Right.
behaviors, and pain points,
Wow.
giving you real data to work with.
He gives a great example with MailChimp,
Oh, yeah.
who used journey mapping to really understand how users were interacting with their platform.
Right.
By pinpointing those key pain points,
Uh-huh.
they streamlined their processes
Right.
and created this much more intuitive and user-friendly experience.
Yeah, Airbnb comes up again.
Oh, yeah.
That's a fantastic example.
Yeah.
They use storytelling personas and journey maps
Yeah.
to ensure that the user's perspective is woven into like every single stage of their product development.
It's all about grounding your decisions in real data,
Right.
not just assumptions.
Exactly.
But let's be honest, even with all the data in the world,
Yeah.
implementing UX changes can be tricky.
Oh, absolutely.
It often means challenging the status quo and pushing for change,
Right.
which, as we all know, can be met with resistance.
Change can be tough.
It can.
And Boag acknowledges that resistance is practically inevitable.
Yeah.
He even goes so far as to categorize the different types of resistance you might face,
Oh, really?
from like apathetic executives to
Yeah.
skeptical developers.
I've definitely met my fair share of those. We've always done it this way, folks.
Yeah.
But Boag offers some really smart strategies for getting past these hurdles.
Yeah.
He highlights how Microsoft involved developers in user research sessions,
Oh, that's a good one.
which was brilliant.
Yeah.
It helped them build empathy for the users and understand the impact of their work.
It's amazing how powerful it can be
Yeah.
to just get people out of their own heads
Right.
and see things from the user's point of view.
Totally.
Makes it a lot harder to dismiss those needs
Yeah.
when you've seen those struggles firsthand.
And Salesforce did something similar,
Uh-huh.
using workshops to educate teams about user research findings.
Right.
This helped reduce resistance and build support for UX initiatives across departments.
It's all about showing, not telling.
Right.
When people understand the why behind UX decisions,
Yeah.
they're way more likely to get on board.
So take a minute to think about your own context.
Yeah.
Where are you likely to encounter that resistance, and what strategies could you use?
All right.
Maybe it's involving stakeholders in user research,
Yeah.
presenting data in a really compelling way,
Right.
or just finding those early wins that build momentum.
Exactly.
Remember, it's not about forcing change.
Yeah.
It's about bringing people along
Right.
and demonstrating the value of a user-centered approach.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about starting small,
Right.
getting leadership buy-in,
Mm.
empowering teams,
Yeah.
measuring impact.
Right.
But Boag doesn't want us to just think about UX as like a series of projects.
Right.
He wants us to like bake it into the DNA of our organizations.
He wants to be a way of life,
Yeah.
like a core value that influences every decision,
Uh-huh.
every process,
Yeah.
every interaction.
It's about shifting from that we've always done it this way mentality
Right.
to how can we make this better for our users?
Exactly.
And he uses Atlassian as an example
Right.
of a company that's really embraced this.
Uh-huh.
They include UX metrics in their performance reviews.
Wow.
That's how seriously they take it.
Yeah.
It's not a side project. It's fundamental to how they define success.
That's incredible.
And then Capital One went all in,
Right.
acquiring design agencies and making UX a core function of their product teams.
Wow.
They realized that investing in UX wasn't about making things look pretty.
Yeah.
It was about creating a competitive advantage
Uh-huh.
and building a brand known for those exceptional user experiences.
Exactly.
These are companies that get it,
Yeah.
you know? They understand the transformative power of UX.
Right.
It's not just about design.
Yeah.
It's about building a culture that prioritizes the user experience at every level.
Absolutely.
And while those examples might seem like a far cry from your own workplace, it all starts with that shift in mindset.
Uh-huh.
So let's talk about how we can actually prove the value of UX.
Yeah.
How do we show that all this effort isn't just like a feel-good exercise,
Right.
but actually makes a difference to the bottom line?
That's where metrics and KPIs are crucial.
Right.
Boag is really adamant about measuring and communicating the impact of UX,
Yeah.
especially to those who control the budget.
Uh-huh.
It's about tuning those warm, fuzzy feelings about good UX
Yeah.
into cold, hard data that stakeholders can understand and appreciate.
Exactly. We need to speak their language.
Right.
And there are lots of ways to do this. Boag talks about Booking.com.
Yeah.
They rigorously A/B test everything to track changes in conversion rates.
Right.
This allows them to demonstrate how even small UX tweaks can lead to significant increases in bookings and revenue.
And HubSpot relies heavily on customer feedback, conversion metrics,
Right.
and retention rates to validate their UX decisions.
So they're not just guessing. They're using data to track the impact of their efforts and make sure their UX investments are paying off.
It's about being accountable.
Right.
And showing that UX isn't a cost center, but a profit driver.
So what metrics would be most relevant to your organization?
Right.
How could you track them effectively to showcase that positive impact?
Think about the data you already have
Yeah.
and how you can use it to tell a compelling story about the value of UX.
Because when you can show that UX leads to tangible results,
Right.
increased sales, reduced costs,
Yeah.
improved customer satisfaction,
Exactly.
it becomes much easier to advocate for more investment
Right.
and build a case for making UX a core part of your business strategy.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here.
We have.
From debunking those myths about UX to exploring how to build a user-centered culture.
Right.
But the journey doesn't end here. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into Boag's insights and discuss how you can start applying these principles to your own work and life.
Sounds good. Welcome back. You know, it's amazing to think about just how much our world has changed thanks to companies that really understand user experience.
It really is. I mean, imagine a world without these like seamless online experiences that we kind of take for granted now.
Oh, yeah.
Like online shopping, banking, entertainment. Like it would all be so much more complicated.
Exactly. And that's why Boag's point about like embedding UX into the very DNA of an organization.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah.
You know, it's not enough to just have a few UX specialists kind of tucked away in a corner.
Right.
You need to make it everyone's responsibility.
He makes this interesting comparison to the car industry.
Oh,
You know, he talks about how car manufacturers used to have these totally separate departments for design engineering and manufacturing,
Right.
which often led to like all these conflicts and compromises.
Yeah, it was like they were working in silos.
Right.
Each focused on their own goals without thinking about the big picture.
Right. And then companies like Toyota came along and they introduced this concept of lean manufacturing, which was all about collaboration and this holistic approach to car design and production.
And the results were incredible. They improved quality, reduced costs, and got cars to market faster.
It was a total game changer.
Totally.
And Boag's argument is that we need that same kind of revolution in how we approach UX.
Yeah, and we're actually starting to see it happen.
Really?
There are some great examples of companies embracing UX as like a core business strategy.
Boag talks about Atlassian.
Yeah.
You know, a software company known for their like commitment to user-centered design.
Right.
And they don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk.
Right.
They actually include UX metrics in their performance reviews.
Wow. That's a powerful way to show that UX is a priority.
Yeah.
It shows they're serious about it, you know?
Yeah.
They're holding people accountable for creating great experiences.
And then there's Capital One. You wouldn't necessarily think of a bank as being on the cutting edge of UX.
Right.
But they've made huge strides.
Yeah.
They acquired design agencies and integrated those teams into their product development process.
Talk about commitment.
I know. It shows that they get it, you know? They see the value of design thinking and how it can lead to more user-friendly products.
Right.
It's inspiring to see companies doing this.
It is.
And showing what's possible when you embrace UX as like a core business function.
Right.
But it's important to remember not everyone's going to be on board right away.
Oh, absolutely. Change is scary, and there will always be resistance.
So how do we deal with that?
Well, Boag has a whole chapter on the challenges of implementing UX changes.
Oh, good.
And he gives some really practical advice.
What does he say?
One thing he emphasizes is knowing your audience.
Right.
And tailoring your message accordingly, you know. Convincing a group of executives to invest in UX is different from talking to a team of developers. Right. It's about speaking their language and understanding their motivations.
So
Executives are usually focused on the bottom line.
Yeah.
So you got to show how UX can boost profits, reduce costs, or increase customer satisfaction.
Boag gives this really useful framework for thinking about those different types of resistance.
All right.
He talks about The skeptic,
Right.
who needs hard data.
Yeah.
The traditionalist, who hates change.
Yeah.
And the busy bee,
Right.
who just doesn't have the time.
And each of them needs a different approach.
So true.
Right? For the skeptic, you got to have data and case studies.
To back it up.
Yeah. For the traditionalists, maybe appeal to their sense of pride.
Oh.
Show how UX makes a better product.
And for the busy bee.
Make it easy. Seamless integration is key.
Makes sense.
Boag also talks about finding allies.
Oh, yeah.
People who are already passionate about UX.
Yeah.
Or who are open to new ideas.
Those people are gold.
They can be amazing champions, helping you build momentum and overcome that resistance.
Okay, so let's say we've convinced everyone that UX is important.
Right.
How do we actually put it into practice?
Well, that can be tricky. Boag emphasizes that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
The best way to implement UX will be different for every organization.
Yeah, depending on their size, structure, industry, and resources.
Exactly. He has this framework for thinking about UX maturity levels.
Oh, tell me more about that.
You know, from those just dipping their toes in
Yeah.
to those who have fully embraced it.
He recommends starting with the basics.
Right.
Building a foundation of UX knowledge, maybe hiring UX professionals, or training existing staff.
Right.
Or just creating a culture where that kind of thinking is encouraged.
As they get more mature,
Yeah.
they can implement more sophisticated processes.
Yeah.
Like user research, usability testing, and A/B testing.
Right.
And those leading the way. It's about continuous improvement and innovation.
Always looking for ways to make things better. Boag also has some great advice on building a UX team.
Oh, yeah. What does he say?
He talks about having a clear UX strategy, defining roles and responsibilities, and setting up processes for collaboration and communication.
It's all about breaking down those silos and working together to create those amazing experiences.
And that brings us back to measuring the impact of UX.
Right.
How do we prove it's worth it?
We need data. We need to show that UX makes a real difference.
Right.
Boag's a huge advocate for using data to track those improvements.
What does he suggest?
Well, he talks about setting clear metrics and KPIs, and he has this framework for thinking about different types of UX metrics.
Like what?
He breaks them down into 3 categories: behavioral, attitudinal, and business.
So behavioral is about how users interact.
Right.
Attitudinal is how they feel.
Yeah.
And business is the impact on the bottom line.
Exactly. And you need to choose metrics that match your goals.
Right. So if your goal is to boost sales, you track things like conversion rates and average order value.
If it's about customer satisfaction, you look at Net Promoter Score and churn rate.
It's not just about numbers, though. It's about telling a story with those numbers.
Exactly. Use dashboards, reports, visuals, and stories to bring those data points to life.
Make it engaging and persuasive.
Right.
Data is powerful, but it only works if people understand it.
Now, even with all this data, sometimes you'll still face resistance.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
People can be creatures of habit, and change is tough.
What does Boag suggest we do?
Well, he says empathy is key. Try to see why people are resistant.
Are they afraid?
Yeah. Or maybe they don't understand the benefits.
Or maybe they're just too busy.
Right. Once you understand the root of the problem,
you
can address it more effectively.
He also talks about building a coalition of support.
Yes. You can't do it alone.
Right.
Find those people who believe in UX.
And who are willing to fight for it.
Exactly. And don't underestimate small wins.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you can't change everything overnight.
Right.
Focus on those incremental improvements that show the value of UX.
Those little wins build momentum.
Yeah, and create a sense of possibility.
And once people see the positive impact, they're more likely to embrace bigger changes.
This has been such a great conversation.
It has. Boag's book is full of insightful ideas and practical advice.
And it's not just for UX professionals.
It's for anyone who wants to create better experiences.
Their customers, their colleagues, even themselves.
We've just scratched the surface here, though.
Right.
Join us for part 3.
Yeah.
Where we explore even more strategies for building a UX revolution.
And making a real difference in the world.
And we're back for our final part of this UX deep dive. It's been awesome to unpack all these insights with you.
I totally agree. It's easy to forget. You know, we have the power to create really incredible experiences.
Yeah, Boag really hits home with that idea that UX isn't just about how things look or work. It's about creating something with real meaning and impact for the user.
He talks about considering the whole emotional journey, their hopes, fears, frustrations, you know, their aspirations. It's about designing things that connect on a deeper level.
Right.
And leave a positive impression that lasts.
It reminds me of that Maya Angelou quote.
Oh, yeah?
People will forget what you said and did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
That's so true for UX.
It is.
It shows we need to go beyond just the basics.
Right.
And create experiences that delight and inspire.
Yeah. Boag gives us this framework for thinking about user needs.
Yeah.
Starting with functionality and then moving up to usability, pleasure, and meaning.
And he says exceptional UX tackles all of those.
Right, and it's ongoing.
Always.
We always need to be listening and adjusting based on feedback.
Totally. Boag has some great tips for gathering that feedback.
Like what?
Surveys, interviews, usability testing,
Yeah.
A/B testing.
And then creating a feedback loop.
Right. A system for collecting, analyzing, and then actually acting on that feedback.
Closing the loop.
Exactly. Creating a cycle of improvement.
But one of the big challenges is that good UX often means shaking things up.
Oh, yeah. Change can be tough.
Boag gives some really inspiring examples, though.
Oh, yeah. What? Google, Amazon, Apple.
Right. Those companies are all about user experience.
They're constantly pushing the boundaries.
But it's not just the big guys.
Right.
Boag shows how companies of all sizes can use UX to their advantage.
Even small businesses.
Exactly. Creating a user-friendly website.
Yeah.
Improving customer service. Making their space more welcoming.
Right. It's realizing that every interaction shapes the experience.
Totally.
Boag also gives advice on advocating for UX inside your own organization.
What does he say?
Building relationships, finding allies, explaining the value to stakeholders.
And persistence. Change takes time.
It does.
You got to keep pushing even when it feels tough.
Believe in the power of UX. Right. It's the right thing for your users, your business, and ultimately for everyone.
Before we wrap up, I want to go back to measuring UX impact.
Yeah, it's one thing to believe in it.
Right, but we need to prove it.
Exactly. Boag gives us all these tools.
To measure it?
Yeah, from those hard numbers like conversion rates to qualitative data like user feedback.
Choose metrics that line up with your goals.
If you want more sales, track how UX affects revenue.
Right. And if it's about happy customers,
look at feedback and satisfaction scores.
Data tells the story.
It does. Use it to show the value of UX and justify more investment.
And remember, data isn't just for UX folks.
Everyone should use it.
Designers, developers, marketers, CEOs, everyone.
Data helps us understand our users.
And find areas to improve.
And track our progress.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Boag's user experience revolution,
I think the big takeaway is this.
What is it?
We all have the power to create better experiences.
No matter what our job is.
Right, or what industry we're in.
It starts with putting the user first.
Empathy, creativity, challenging the way things are.
Using data to guide us and measure our progress.
And never giving up on creating amazing experiences.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed it. Now go out there and start your own UX